Football Friday, and we have lots to get to this morning. I got Hawk here. I got Kevin Clark here. Tim Hasselbeck is here to talk some football. We have many more on the way, but things are picking up already in the NFL, where the Patriots and Seahawks veterans report to camp today, looking to start another journey back to the Super Bowl. Let's start in New England. Hawk, with A.J. Brown in the fold, having acquired him from the Eagles, is New England the team to beat in the AFC?
As much as I love A.J. Brown being in the lineup for Drake May to utilize, I actually think the Buffalo Bills are still the team to beat in that division. They added DJ Moore, which might not feel as sexy as the A.J. Brown addition, but what it does is it right-sizes their offense and gives Josh Allen legitimate threats all over the field.
I'm sure DJ Moore thinks he's just as sexy as A.J. Brown, but we're talking about the Patriots, not the Bills. What do you think, Kevin Clark, of this A.J. Brown addition and what it'll mean in terms of New England's chances to get back to the Super Bowl?
A.J. Brown is the move that the Patriots had to make, so all respect to them, but it's going to be a very different AFC this year. Much improved rosters in Denver with Jalen Waddle. By the way, I think one of the reasons Sean Payton made that move is he realized how wide open the AFC is. New coaches in places like Baltimore, which I think will help. Cincinnati with their health and their moves on the defensive end. It's just going to be a very different conference. Even the Chargers, I think, will be in the mix this year. I don't think they're going to get the breaks they got last year. Give me another team.
Tim, how do you feel, like specifically, we heard about this A.J. Brown trade all offseason long. Now that he's there, how do you feel he's going to help take Drake May's game to another level?
Well, Drake May's never played with a receiver like A.J. Brown, and so I think that ends up being the key. You know, Brown is unique in that, you know, the size, physicality, and speed, catch radius, those types of things can make it easy for a quarterback. You know, you get, isolated coverage. Look, that's a green light right there. And what happens is it can often kind of take the read out of a play because you know where you're going with the football. And then you don't have to be perfect because the guy doesn't have to create a ton of separation in order to complete a pass to him. So I think that almost like the dictating of coverage that big physical elite receivers can do, I think Brown does that. And I think that makes life significantly easier for any quarterback, especially one as talented as Drake May.
Is he still that guy? I mean, when you look at the rest of the wide receivers in the NFL, where do you put A.J. Brown ranking-wise at this point?
He's absolutely top 5 most talented wide receivers in the league. Yeah. And when you even look at like how we talked about A.J. Brown over the last few years in Philadelphia was because as good as they have been and as much as he brought to that offense, he was still underachieving for what his talent level is. When you remember, like over the last few decades, the prototypical receiver is that 6'2 plus, 220-pound plus receiver. Go look at the ESPN top 10 list. There's only 2 of those guys, Nico Collins and A.J. Brown. And A.J. Brown is the best of that version of NFL wide receiver.
What are you looking at for this Patriots? I mean, they're upgraded at receiver, him and Romeo Doubs, by the way, who they also signed in free agency. But it was the offensive line that kind of did them in at the end last year. Are they better there?
Will Campbell allowed more pressures in the Super Bowl than any player in a playoff game in the last 7 years. That stat is bad. You don't have to be an analytics expert to know how bad that stat is. But he's healthy again this year. Hopefully, obviously, he's got the short arms. Maybe they'll be able to coach him differently. There's still problems there. The answer is I don't know. I had to see it with the offensive line up front. A.J. Brown's going to help. That defense is going to help. They obviously still need better production edge rushers, but their interior pressure was awesome last year. Milt Williams was one of the best players in football last year. I think they're going to be okay. But again, the AFC is just so wide open. I don't know how they fit in there.
Yeah, Tim, where do you put this Patriots group? I mean, do you expect them to repeat as division champions, let alone conference champions?
Yeah. I don't think I do, Dan. Look, I think that I think they can be a better team, kind of to the guy's point. I think they can be maybe a better team than they were a year ago. I think Drake May can play a little bit better, and they, not achieve the things that they achieved as a team last year. And then, some of that will be schedule related. Some of that will just be the rest of the conference related. So, no, I don't think with some of their concerns, just in terms of, a bit of, kind of getting to the Super Bowl type hangover that can happen to teams. So, look, I think the Bills end up winning the AFC East. I don't think New England, ends up back in the AFC Championship game. But it doesn't necessarily mean I don't think they make progress as a team, because I think they do, but I don't think those things happen.
You got Bills or Patriots or someone else in the
Jets.
AFC
No, I'm
East?
kidding. The Bills. Give me the Bills. Again, the Patriots, all respect to them. Drake made one of the best players under pressure in all of football last year, but being under pressure is a bad thing. Give me the Bills.
You already said you like the Bills more than the Patriots. But I mean, you look at the Patriots, they're a wild card. Are they still a playoff team for you?
Absolutely, they're still a playoff team. I think they're probably a top 3 team in the AFC, along with the Denver Broncos. And I think when you look at even Will Campbell, like he was a rookie tackle. Yeah, he played tough down the stretch. He was dealing with injuries. You get that rookie wall because you're not used to a season that long. But for my rookies, I would rather you struggle. If you're going to struggle in a Super Bowl. Let that be in the environment. It's a great philosopher, rapper Future, who said, do you want to cry in a Honda or a Ferrari? And I would say it to my rookies, do you want to struggle in the preseason or the Super Bowl? Give me the Super Bowl.
I'm glad Hawk didn't do the team talk in the locker room before the game. Hey, just struggle in the Super Bowl. You guys are good. You guys have made it.
If as a Bengal and a Brown, that would have been really welcomed.
Look, man, I mean, like the Super Bowl as a rookie, you got another month of practice time, if nothing else, right? If your team went all the way to the Super Bowl, you would think that Will Campbell would find a way to improve on that performance where we saw him last. Other side of that Super Bowl equation, the defending champions, the Seattle Seahawks, they also report to training camp today, which has the whole league buzzing about the Rams. Yes, it is not Seattle that is favored to win the NFC West, and the reason is the Rams, who they barely beat for that division title last year, loaded up this offseason. You look at these guys that they added. This is, I mean, obviously Myles Garrett, Defensive Player of the Year, but they rebuilt their defensive backfield with 2 guys from the Chiefs. They were so happy with their free agent haul, they used a first-round pick on a quarterback who they hope doesn't play for them this year. So the Rams look geared up, favored to win the division, the conference, the Super Bowl, all of those things. So, you know, the Seahawks, we're going to get to the Seahawks, but the story of the Seahawks heading into this season is, can they be as good as the Rams again? If the Rams, Tim, who look this loaded, don't end up getting to the Super Bowl, what do you think will be the thing that derails them?
Age. I think that's the key, you know, because when you look at them, they're really good. But to think that Devontae Adams is going to have a year the way that, you know, that he did this past year, look, that's tough at his age. Remember, Matthew Stafford wasn't even really participating in training camp a year ago because of his back. So, you know, he makes it through the season, you know, pretty much healthy the entire year. You know, it's unlikely that those things continue to happen for aging players. Look, so to me, that's it. If Stafford and Adams play like they did a year ago, if you know, if they get similar production out of other guys on the offense, and then if Garrett is who he has been, look, they're the favorite for a reason, and I wouldn't disagree with it. But it is an aging roster, and that can be a concern.
Anything concern you about the Rams?
Yeah, they're in a division with the Seattle Seahawks, who just had one of the best postseason runs in the history of football. Best point differential since the 2002 Bucks. First Super Bowl champion ever to not turn the ball over in an entire postseason. I'm just seeing the headlines here about how this is an unbeatable team, and they're in a division. They played twice in December with a team that not only won the Super Bowl, won in dominant fashion. Played the Patriots, had a over 50% pressure rate, hit the ball carrier in the run game behind the line of scrimmage more than half the time. Yeah, that concerns me if I'm the Rams.
Look, we're in the offseason. It's easy to get excited. We see all these moves. We make a big fuss. Like the Rams are loading up. Is it fair for them to be considered the favorite ahead of the defending Super Bowl champs?
It is absolutely fair because there's another name that wasn't on that list, and it was Aaron Donald, which is also an incredible difference maker, and that's putting it lightly. Sam Darnold wasn't on the ESPN's top 10 quarterback list, which is the travesty because I am a Sam Darnold truther, and the way he's played over the last 2 years, I think has been understated how well he's played the quarterback position. That being said, their margin of winning that Super Bowl and beating the Rams down those important stretches was paper thin. And I would argue if they added just one of those names, it would flop the Rams to being the better team in that scenario. They added 4 names. They added 2 top-level corners. They added Myles Garrett, the best pass rusher of this generation, and potentially Aaron Donald, even if he is at 70%, is one of the best defensive tackles in the National Football League. So I don't think it's overstated that the Rams are the favorite because what we could possibly see there is unprecedented.
You have to remember that the difference between the Rams and the Seahawks last year may have been the Seahawks picking up a loose ball in the end zone on a 2-point conversion attempt the week before Christmas. That determined the NFC West. It determined that the NFC Championship game was in Seattle and not L.A. Tim, when you look at the Seahawks, have they done enough? The Rams have done so much. Have they done enough that you still see them on the same level?
I do, because I think that John Schneider's done an amazing job of drafting, speed, athleticism, length on the defensive side of the ball. And that really showed itself throughout the season, definitely in the postseason. Look, if he's right about Jadarian Price, their rookie running back out of Notre Dame, then I think that they actually may be a better running team, especially during the regular season, than they were a year ago. So I think it's fair to kind of give the benefit of the doubt to John Schneider and what he's done personnel-wise with that team, because they've gotten a lot right. But listen, Hawk's exactly right. You can't really downplay the signings that the Rams have had.
We'll get an early look at both teams. Seahawks open on Wednesday of Week 1 against New England. Rams open in Australia the next